What's up guys, this is AK and today we're talking about Final Cut Camera. Yep, Apple has launched a new filmmaking app completely free of cost that goes head to head with older players like Filmmaking Pro and Moment Camera. For years, Apple users have been wishing for manual camera controls to make the iPhone more flexible as a filmmaking tool, and it's finally here. So let me first take you through the controls of the app, what it can do, and basically everything you need to know to get started. Then I'll share some of my thoughts on it as well as some areas the app can improve upon. Take note that this is only version 1 of the app, so there's going to be a lot that's missing and a lot of areas it can improve upon, but I'm sure that over time it's going to get a lot better. So let's jump into the app. Okay, so on first look, you realize that the layout is familiar and it's almost like the inbuilt camera app. There are some controls up here at the top and some at the bottom, so let's go through them one by one. So first up are your video quality controls. So tap on this menu right here to expand it, and here you have a few options. First up is your video codec. You can switch between Apple ProRes or H.265. Personally, I go with H.265 all the time. Then you have your dynamic range, so you can switch between SDR and HDR. Personally, I leave it at SDR most of the time because it's a lot easier to edit. Moving on, you have your resolution, so you have 4K, 1080p and 720p. If you don't want your files to be too large, you can shoot at 1080p. Otherwise, if you have plenty of space, you can shoot at 4K because it allows for a lot of room when you're editing. Next up, you have your frame rate. Most of the time, I shoot at 30 FPS to get that natural motion blur, but if you're shooting in a low light condition, you can go with 24 FPS, or if you're looking to slow down your footage, you can shoot at 60 FPS, depending on the situation. All of these can also be adjusted by clicking on this gear icon on the right, so you can see all your options right here, as well as stabilization and mirror front camera. I'm going to turn that off for right now. Since you're already here, let's talk about some of the tools. So first up, we have the grid overlay. So if you turn this on, you get these grids on your screen for easier composition. And right below that, you have the aspect ratio guide. So let's say you're shooting for Instagram, you can click on maybe square, and you can see that the grid has shrunk to just this area here. This can help you make better compositions. I'm going to turn these back off, and next you have your overexposure indicator. So let's say your shot is too bright, it will indicate it in this red marking. Next, there is focus peaking, which tells you exactly the part of the frame that the camera is focusing on. And then lastly, there is audio. Heading back to the camera, you have this multicam option. With this, you can have up to 4 iPhones, all of them running the Final Cut camera app, which is synced to an iPad running Final Cut Pro. If you want to see a demo of that, I'll link a video in the description below. Moving on, right below the top bar, there's an indicator which tells you the estimated recording time before your storage runs out. There's also this tiny audio meter over to the right which can't expand, so it's just there. Then on the bottom row, you have your zoom configuration. So since I'm on the 15 Pro right now, I have 3 camera options. But if I were on my iPhone 12, I'd only have 2. And then over to the left, you have your digital zoom. In the regular camera app, if you're let's say on the wide angle lens and you zoom in, the iPhone will automatically switch to another camera lens if necessary. This naturally results in a better quality video simply because optical zoom is better than digital zoom. However, in the Final Cut app, that's not the case. So let's say you're on the wide angle lens and you start zooming in, it will stick to that same lens. Basically, the quality will be pretty bad if you zoom in too much. But regardless, the zoom on this thing is really smooth and really cinematic. Next up, if you click on this arrow, you get more options. First up is white balance, which makes your shot warmer or cooler depending on your liking. And you also have some presets over to the side here. So if you're let's say shooting a sunset and you want to make it look good, you can make it slightly warmer. Next up, you have your exposure, which you can adjust using the slider right here, or you can click on this and you have the shutter speed and ISO options. Then there is the focus options, which comes in both auto and manual. If you wish to tap on the screen to focus, you have to stay in the auto mode because in the manual mode, you'll have to manually adjust it using the slider, which not only on the small screen is extremely difficult, but it's also distracting for the viewer. And just like the inbuilt camera app, you can tap and hold to apply an exposure and focus lock. Then you have your orientation lock, which you can use if you want an easier control or some unique looking shots. Lastly, the reverse camera and record button are pretty straightforward. So that was a quick rundown on the basic controls of the app and how you can start using it. Now let me give you my thoughts on the app. Now let's talk about the good things with this app. The first thing is the ability to connect a drive and record directly into that drive. So right here I have my SSD, and if I connect it, it pops up at the bottom of my screen. It's great for when you're maxing out on the camera settings and you're running low on storage. The second thing I really like is the focus peaking feature. Especially on a small screen like this, it can be really helpful to dial in the perfect focus and not miss the shot. Now let's talk about what's missing. Like I mentioned, this is only version 1 of the app and it's going to get a lot better over time. Firstly, there is no preserve settings option like in the stock camera app. So if I have everything adjusted and I leave the app, when I come back a while later, everything is going to reset. Second, if you're recording a video using the app, it won't automatically save to your camera roll. So you'll have to go into the app, select the videos you want and manually save them to your camera roll. And even then it will duplicate it into your Photos app. That means you essentially have 2 of the same videos on the same phone. And assuming you're shooting on the highest settings, that's a huge waste of space. Lastly, really important to filmmakers is the ability to shoot in log. I think the Pro iPhones already have it, but it will be nice to have it on the non-Pro iPhones, something like what can be done in the Moment camera app. For those who aren't familiar with log, it allows for a lot more flexibility in post-production because you can play around with the colors and get exactly the look you want. Now what we need is the exact same app but for photography. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the new Final Cut camera app. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Drop a like on this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and make sure to check out my other videos. Thank you for watching and I'll see you guys in the next one.